In today's video, we're going to review the Quest 2 in detail, so if you've been trying to decide whether to buy it or not, I can tell you after 3 weeks of review, I can say it's definitely worth your money. For $2.99, you'll gain access to a lot of free content, and there's a lot of great paid content out there as well. Facebook has been developing VR since 2014, and I think they've finally come up with something that's worth your time and money. Since this is a budget headset, it's got some compromises, and I gave it 3 to 3.5 stars for most categories here, but its amazing content and connectivity give it 5 out of 5 stars, and it's amazing value for the dollar. So in summary, it gets an overall rating of 3.8 stars, and I highly recommend it. With the Quest, you can do some amazing things. You can play GTA 5, have a shooting arena inside your house, jump around up in the sky, have a gun battle, and hide behind police cars. You can even use this thing in the backyard outdoors and play shared space games with your friends and family. Battle the zombies or a bunch of bank thieves together. The tracking of the controllers is pretty amazing. It's really fast and accurate, and it makes target shooting amazingly fun. It's got a 90Hz refresh rate, and everything's definitely optimized to be really fast. When not playing action games, you can sit on the couch and watch movies together. You can have a nice home theater. You can throw popcorn at each other and not have to clean it up. There's 3D movies being released all the time in big screen. Each of you just gotta buy like a $6 ticket, and then everyone can join and watch it in a 48-hour period. Up to 4 people on the Quest can join a room together, then you can watch a movie sitting in a canyon, or on Mars, or even the moon. If you've always wanted a big screen on the ceiling of your bedroom, now you can have it in virtual reality without the risk of it falling on you. You can bring these virtual reality environments anywhere with you, whether you're on a train, on a plane. If all the screens are off, you've got your own big screen. 10-hour flights will be no problem for you if you have the 256 version and download all your videos. The Quest is also a great way to exercise. You put on some wrist weights and you play Hit Stream. I was sweating bullets after one 8-minute session. The Quest can even take you to the top of Mount Everest to look around. In Elk Cove, you can just sit on the back patio and enjoy the sunset. Or hang out and play video games or watch TV with your family in your big virtual living room. All they need is a headset and an account. Triton VR is a free shared space game where you can walk around in the same space together. And this is where the Quest 2 really excels because it's all-in-one, completely wireless. It can connect to your hotspot on your phone. Then you sync up the 2 headsets and then you can play against each other, as shown here. Or shoot against zombies like we were doing in the tennis court. So this thing is pretty amazing. You just gotta strap it on, and then you can fly through the sky as Spider-Man, shoot webs onto skyscrapers, and swing through the city. You can race a Lamborghini in Project Cars 2, fight against aliens in MSI Electric City, fly some planes in DCS, and grab a grip of a CZ75, which feels pretty real compared to the real thing. The real thing's obviously heavy and has recoil, but it looks pretty realistic in VR, and it actually makes you feel like you're holding onto a gun and it's shooting, because it's got some vibration, haptic feedback, and when you're aiming at those targets, it feels like you're actually aiming in real life, or very close to real life. Like, how I shoot targets in real life is very similar to how I shoot targets within the game, either it being a rifle with a scope or that CZ75. GTA 5 looks pretty good in the Quest. It's cool to be immersed in 3D Los Santos, inside the car that you just jacked, driving down the road recklessly, smashing into everything. It's alternating eye rendering, so you might get motion sickness, so you can't really play it for too long. We're going to continue on to part 1 and 2, which is the pros and cons and the ratings. Before I do that, I want to thank all my subscribers and all my patrons. All your support helps, and I couldn't do it without you guys. Please check out the links in the description if you'd like to support my channel further. The first pro is the XR2 processor. It's a lot faster and makes this thing run buttery smooth. They say it's got double the performance of the old Quest processor and 4 times the video throughput. I ran some Android benchmarks for it. They're made for smartphones, but I loaded onto the Quest 2 using SideQuest and ran it on there. It's not going to be as good, it's not optimized for the Quest 2, and the Quest 2 is still running its background processes, but it'll give us a representation of how well it performs. So with PC Mark, it got 9,653, which sits in between a Samsung S10 and the OnePlus 6T, which is pretty powerful. So I think their claims that it's twice as fast as the old Quest 1 are true. It's performing about 50% of the 835, so it's probably 200% if it's optimized. This will allow games on the Quest 2 to run at higher graphics quality, while still maintaining your frames per second, and that'll provide you with nice smooth gameplay, which is essential when you're playing action games and you're looking around really quickly. Another big pro is that it has Wi-Fi 6 instead of Wi-Fi 5, which is much faster. So you'll be able to stream wirelessly your games in higher quality and lower latency, so you can game much quicker and smoother. What this means is that when you buy Half-Life Alyx on Steam and you need to play it on Steam VR, you can play it untethered with no wire coming from your computer to your head. You can do it all wirelessly with your Quest 2. You can play other PC VR games like DCS off Steam, and this video here you're watching is recorded on the Quest 2 through ALVR. It looks pretty good and it's running pretty smooth. You can definitely play Half-Life Alyx on this. Quality is not as good as on a link cable, which could have higher bandwidth and less latency, and it's a little smoother. So you'll probably want to plug it in if you don't have a rock solid Wi-Fi 6 connection. On Wi-Fi 5 it actually works pretty well, but try out the cable, you might like it better. For shooting games, I'd rather be untethered so I can turn around easily. I think the quality of ALVR is pretty good for shooting games, zombie games, things like that. There's also Virtual Desktop for $20. I got a latency of 40 milliseconds instead of 60, so it's a big improvement. Some bandwidth testing sites aren't that fast, so make sure you try other ones. This one here worked well for me, and it actually got about 400 megabits per second, which is fast enough to run most ALVR games. Played Spider-Man on it and worked pretty well. So if you have a good Wi-Fi connection, you can wirelessly play a lot of PC VR games, and that gives you access to all the Steam library, and there's a lot of free games on there, and a lot of great paid ones like Half-Life Alyx and all the rest that I'll list in the rest of the video. This is Showdown, recorded on the Quest 2 and transmitted through ALVR. This is a great test for your connection. If this works, anything will. You can sideload a lot of games using SideQuest, and SideQuest has a lot of free content that developers are putting on there as beta and testing. And a lot of games are actually pretty good, like AIM XR. Definitely consider contributing to his development because it's a great game already, and once it becomes official, I think it'll be even better. I actually like the physics and the graphics better than Contractors, and that game is considered pretty good. So once you load the APKs from SideQuest, you can conveniently play it just on the Quest as a native application. Because now you're using the XR2 processor, and you can get much faster frame rates and nice smooth gameplay. Your controller will react much faster than on ALVR. Another good thing about the Quest is the great community development. You've got Luke Ross putting all the work in to get GTA 5 into the Quest. It looks pretty amazing. It feels like you're right in Los Santos. When a car's about to hit you, it actually feels like it's about to hit you. It's very realistic. The graphics in GTA 5 are pretty amazing. You can even play Quake Demo in the Quest. It's actually pretty fun. The gun actually shoots very accurately, and the movement is very natural and intuitive. The Quest basically has unlimited content with all these developers. The high resolution is definitely a plus. It gives you 1920 pixels vertical and 1832 pixels horizontal. The field of view is only 89 degrees, but it was kind of funny when you actually looked over to the left and right, it reduced your peripheral vision because your eyeball actually moved in relation to the lens. One thing you have to keep in mind is that if you make a screen inside VR, it's going to be about 1080p because you only use about 51 degrees. You don't go all the way from top to bottom. So if you want to have a 4K screen inside your VR, you'll need about 4000 pixels horizontal and vertical. Your PPI will have to be 1600, and that's actually going to be possible through Samsung's development. They made an OLED display that can theoretically go up to 20,000 PPI. So you won't see any screen door effect, and it'll just be an awesome display in VR. They even say a great application for it will be VR and AR, but we'll have to wait until the processing power is fast enough to run that resolution. According to my calculations, the Quest 2 has 752 PPI, and that's pretty high considering the highest that iPhone's ever gone is 476. That's about 60% higher PPI. With the new V23 software release, the Oculus Link runs at 90 Hz, and you can also crank the resolution up to max. That's not a huge benefit, but now you have a higher resolution going into the display, and it actually performs a little bit better. I'll show you quickly what it looks like. This is just what you're rendering, so it's a much higher resolution. And then in the display, you'll see the left side has standard resolution and 72 Hz, and then on the right side performing at 90 Hz and higher resolution. You can see it's a little bit sharper and provides a little bit more detail. So if your computer can handle it, definitely render at a higher resolution. And always use 90 Hz. I don't think there's any reason to use a slower refresh rate. On the track, you can definitely notice the higher resolution because you end up looking further away, and at the lower resolution you see a lot of pixelation in the distance, so the higher resolution helps a lot there. Finger tracking or hand tracking is pretty cool. With this free hands physics lab from SideQuest, you can play around with that. There's a lot of things you can do in there. You can shoot guns and use tools and just manipulate things. Here's a dart gun demo. It definitely doesn't work as well as the controller, so for any shooting range activities you'll want to use the controllers. But it is fun to play around with your hands like this. And the final pro on my list is the headphone jack and Bluetooth connectivity. It works very well with Bluetooth headphones, so it's true wireless gaming. But if you have a good pair of wired headphones, you can plug that in as well. I think that was a great addition because I have these XB800s that have mega bass, and it'll really allow the games to come to life. So at the top of the list for the cons is the Fresnel lens. It creates God rays, and that's because it has all these concentric rings that you can see. These rings allows it to be super thin in comparison to a conventional lens, which is super thick. Another benefit is the short focal length, so it can make a small headset. Unfortunately, mine came with a scratch on the inside of the Fresnel lens, so I definitely recommend buying from Amazon because it seems like it has poor QA/QC. And Amazon has a great return policy, so you can return it within 30 days if there's any issues. My first one actually had a stuck green pixel in the left side as well. It should be noted that these headsets are made in China and designed by Facebook on HackerWay. Here's a quick look through the lens using a little Sony camera. The picture isn't perfect, and you'll see some blurry text on the peripheral, and you'll see these God rays from time to time. I'll zoom in here to see if we can see how the pixels are, and they're pretty dense, and there's minimal screen door effect occurring. So they have used a pretty good LCD display in here, and I'm pretty happy with it. That's why I'd recommend this headset. But we just got to keep in mind that it's not going to be as crystal clear as the Valve Index, which is about $1,000. For a third of the price, I'll put up with the annoying glare. If this does bother you, definitely check out the Valve Index. Another very important point is that these are acrylic lenses most likely, and that's probably why they warn you to not use any liquid cleaners, alcohol, ammonia, anything like that. Most of these cleaning wipes use alcohol, so don't even touch the lens with that. The alcohol can actually crack the acrylic. Here's a lens from one of my action cameras. I sprayed Rain-X on there and it destroyed the lens. These prescription safety lenses got sprayed with bug spray, and that also caused it to crack from the edge. So be careful with any spray that has a solvent in it. Definitely listen to their warning and don't let any solvent touch these lenses. The same also goes for the Valve Index. It has the same warning about no solvents. All you need is a 100% clean microfiber cloth and to make sure you got no dust or dirt on your lenses. So use a little blower like this squeeze blower and get all the loose dirt off it. Then you can go ahead and wipe it gently with your microfiber cloth very lightly. If you push hard on it, you could cause some scratches, and deep scratches are what destroys the lenses. Here's a couple flashlight recommendations if you're looking for any. A flashlight lit up at 45 degrees will let you see any dirt or dust on your lenses and help you keep it super clean. I haven't used them before, but I definitely recommend using lens protectors if you're really worried about scratches. For a couple bucks, it's worth trying out. If you don't like it, just take it off. And the 2-hour battery life is pretty bad, but I really don't blame it because it's a high-powered machine. The XR2 is so powerful, it needs active cooling, and the exhaust blows out the top center and is about 36 degrees Celsius or 97 degrees Fahrenheit. I estimate that it has a 4,600 mAh battery in there, and with the stock charger it takes about 1.5 hours to charge, or 2 or 3 hours if you use a standard charger. So definitely use the stock charger, it's about 40% faster. If you're charging from 0%, it takes about 2 hours to 2.5 hours to fully charge it. A 5,000 mAh battery pack will give you 2.5 additional hours for a total runtime of 4.5 hours. If you need to run longer than that, just have 2 of these battery packs and charge one while you're using the other. I recommend putting it on the back because it acts as a counterweight and it keeps the head-mounted display or HMD from pulling down on your face. So without the counterweight, we've got 453 grams of moment force or 0.33 foot-pounds of torque. By adding the counterweight, we get a 25% reduction in torque, and that means your strap can be looser and the HMD won't slide and press against your face as much, so it'll be much more comfortable. If your cable is about 50 centimeters and it has a 90-degree angle, you can mount it out of the way, and that allows you to use headphones on the side very easily. I tried some other battery configurations like the E4S, 10,000 mAh and 20,000 mAh batteries. The 20,000 mAh was great because it basically cancelled out the headset and was perfectly balanced on the head. But it's kind of heavy, so for gaming, I'd rather go with the 5,000 mAh or the E4S, which uses two 18650s. It provides some counterweight, but it's light enough that you can swing around your head no problem, without the whole head assembly trying to twist on your head. So with the E4S, I could put the strap on with moderate tension, and it held in place very well. It was kind of lightweight and still provides a lot of runtime. I recommend the Samsung 35E, and I'll leave links in the description to where I recommend getting the batteries from. The SoShine E4S charger is really good and provides 1.5 amps to the Quest 2. In addition to the Velcro on the back of the E4S, I recommend putting a strap on it just to make sure it's secure and doesn't fly off if you turn your head too quickly. If you have a lot of 18650s, you can swap them out easily and just keep on playing. You'll never have an issue with runtime. But if you don't have these batteries, then just buy 2 USB battery packs and keep charging them and swapping them. If you do put a battery pack on the back, be careful when you pick it up. The battery pack might smash into your lenses and that'll scratch them, so be very careful with that. One thing I don't like is an integrated battery. It makes it very difficult to replace once the battery starts to degrade. To save money, it doesn't have the eye relief adjustment, so you won't be able to do anything about it being blurry on the sides. Unless you upgrade to the Index, then you get the cream of the crop of lenses. But I think those are also acrylic, so don't use solvents on them. And instead of using 2 LCDs that move, they use one single LCD, and that means the interpupillary distance can only be adjusted so much. There are 3 adjustments, so measure your eyes pupil to pupil. If it's between 55 and 71, you should be okay. With that big lithium-ion battery at the front, it's pretty heavy, and the stock straps are pretty flimsy, so you gotta really squeeze it against your head. The more expensive headsets have a Halo head strap, and that has a nice pad that holds a lot of the weight against your forehead. I've ordered this $30 Halo head strap from AliExpress. I'm gonna give it a try and let you guys know how it goes. And a big con for most is definitely the Facebook login requirement. I don't use Facebook, but I am using it for the login of the Quest, and it seems to be working fine. It would have been nice if you could just use an Oculus login. And for those who want it, it does not have a root yet. One big problem is QA/QC. The first 2 I got were manufactured on August 2020. One of them came with a scratched inside lens, and one of them came with a stuck green pixel. I got a third one, which was made in October 2020, and it seems fine. So maybe they're rushing production, so make sure you got a return policy in case you run across a defective one. Also, when I come out of standby, sometimes the motion is a little bit laggy or wobbly. A reboot fixes it, but it's pretty annoying. Hopefully they fix that. Now before we go to scoring, I just want to go over some tips and tricks that I want to share. Turn it completely off if you're not using it. Pressing the Oculus button 4 times brings you back home. Use a counterweight to extend battery life and make it more comfortable. Use some overgrip on the handles. Use wrist and ankle weights to make it more of a workout. And use a yoga mat so you can delineate your play space and make it so you can play for hours comfortably. And make sure you always play in a safe area. Now we'll go over the scoring and see why I gave it the scores I gave it and talk about some improvement opportunities. It was nice that the controllers came with AA batteries. They also included a charger, cable, and eyeglasses spacer. But they really should include lens protectors and a microfiber cloth, given how delicate the lenses are and how easily scratched they are. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars for the rest of the categories, and I think it's because they made a bunch of compromises to keep the price very low. But at the same time, they put in a high resolution and high frame rate LCD screen in there. My first headset had a green stuck pixel, so they're definitely rushing production and cutting corners. But even though they kept the cost down, I think they selected the right screen. It's got great resolution, no screen door effect, no ghosting, and that's what really matters when you're gaming. For the darker scenes, the blacks are not as black as you'd like. They're a little bit gray, but when you're in the action and playing all these games, I don't think you'll really notice. For the entry-level price, it performs very well. They can obviously improve and use better quality parts like the Valve Index, so they lose 2 points there. I never bothered buying any of the previous headsets because the resolution was too low and it had the screen door effect, but with the quality of the screen now, I think it's worth purchasing, and this will be my first VR headset, so definitely consider it. Here I'll play for you an original soundtrack and then I'll switch over to the recording. So obviously it's going to be a little bit more tinny, kind of like a cell phone speaker. To get a full gaming or cinematic experience, you'll definitely want to grab a set of headphones and plug it in or connect it by Bluetooth. So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. They can definitely improve it, but for short gaming sessions, you could probably use it acceptably. They've actually acknowledged they have a pretty low battery life and made an Elite strap with a battery in the back. So it's kind of like our counterweight battery pack in the back. For ergonomics, they could have added some grips to the handles, and for fit, they could have added a light block for the nose. And it would have been nice if they had a Halo head strap, but like I said, I'll try that out and let you guys know how well it works. So we scored it 3 out of 5 for all the compromises that it made for the low price, but really the content makes up for all of that. You get access to Half-Life Alyx and a bunch of other great games. They've always got great sales, so keep an eye out and pick them up for cheap, and save your hard-earned money. Half-Life is definitely a must-have, because Valve had a team of 80 people working on it for 4 years.
Okay, that's you.
I thought you said us.
You get to use gravity gloves to pull objects towards yourself. It feels very natural. You can throw stuff, you can catch stuff. The gun mechanics and gameplay work very well in VR, and it makes a fully immersive experience with great graphics. I'd say it's one of the best VR games out there.
And Beat Saber is one of my favorites.
I guess everyone has their favorites. One of my favorites from SideQuest is Contractors. It's got great gun dynamics and has this awesome shooting range where you can practice. Its gun dynamics are even better than Half-Life, so you've got to try it out. Here's a list I made of free games that you got to try out for the Rift if you've got a fast gaming computer for PC VR. I have some old server CPUs and a GTX 1070 from Craigslist. So not the fastest computer out there, but it seems to run PC VR pretty well. The link cable runs at 90 Hz now with the latest V23 update, and it works very smoothly. Great for flight simulators. I have a Wi-Fi 5 network connecting at 866 megabits per second, and I can tell the link cable is a little bit faster than virtual desktop. If you have a Wi-Fi 6 network, it might be comparable, but the link cable works quicker for me because I don't have a $200 router. Having access to the Steam VR definitely opens up a lot of doors. They've got a huge library of free games as well as paid games. So there's a lot of demos out there you can try out, like this one, Spider-Man, where you can swing through the city. If you've ever wanted to just swing through the city and be Spider-Man, now you can do it in VR. And it looks pretty real, and it's a pretty comfortable experience. You get to fight this monster and shoot webs at him while his drones try to attack you. You gotta pull off his armor using your webs. It's a pretty fun demo and a great example of what VR can do. If you're prone to motion sickness, this might not be the greatest game, but if you want an immersive experience, this will definitely be one of the games you want to try out. I got motion sickness at first, but I've been using VR for about a month now and I can play most of the games no problem. So definitely buy it from Amazon so you can try it out. If you get motion sickness in the first couple weeks and you just can't get over it, then at least you can say you're not satisfied and you can use the return policy to return it. Here's another fun game. You can do some IPSC drills and practice your marksmanship. So those are the free games on Steam and Oculus PC for Rift, where you need a fast PC for PC VR, but there's a bunch of games on SideQuest as well, which you can try out for free. And you don't need a fast gaming computer to run them. You can just use a laptop and load it onto the Quest 2. The games are very good and very immersive. Look at this in Crisis VR again. I can shoot at the robbers underneath the car, and they'll even shoot at you back while you're under the car. So it's very realistic and fun to play. It's also very challenging, and that makes it very fun. Since it's running on the Quest 2, and the Quest 2 is so powerful, it runs very smoothly and feels very natural, and is a great experience. That's one thing about using the link cable for PC VR. If your computer is not running a 3080 or something like that,
you're dead. You're not the kind of police we need.
You won't have a super snappy and fast experience. My 1070 does it okay, but I can still feel some delay, so beware of that. So there are actually a lot of benefits to just running native applications on the Quest 2. It's got a pretty fast CPU and GPU, so it can run the games very smoothly, and I think they can crank up the graphics and it'll still run pretty smoothly. Here I'm playing Contractors, and the graphics look pretty good to me. They're not at the level of Half-Life Alyx, but for a shooting game, I'd rather keep the latency down and have lightning fast reflexes. There's things in VR that you can do, like reach behind you to shoot, and it's pretty awesome. Contractors is a free game where you can play 5 versus 5 against other players online, and I'd highly recommend it. I think they're still developing it, but it has great potential. The guns shoot very well, gun manipulation is awesome, and the gun physics seem to be spot on. Another great free game is Pavlov's Shack. It's got a zombie mode where you can mow down zombies with your friends or strangers online. It's pretty fun. I think they should get World War Z in here. That'd be an awesome and thrilling game in VR. But until then, this one's pretty awesome too. If you want a better version of this game, you can get the PC VR one on Steam. It's been out since 2017. The SideQuest version just came out in January 2020, so it's fairly new and not fully refined. But it's pretty fun for a free player versus player game. Apocalypse 101 with Bob is also a great free game. It's a very challenging zombie shooter, and you'll probably have hours of fun with it. It's a challenging level where you only pass if you headshot them all. So as you can see, there's plenty of free games on SideQuest for you to try out. All the ones rated 4.9 and up are definitely worth your time. They're well polished games and pretty fun. So there's definitely no shortage of content when you buy the Quest 2. It gives you access to all these great games. This is the first game I've purchased so far because it's fully interactive, very immersive, and great graphics. You need a gaming PC for it, but if you've got one, it's definitely worth it. If you want to download offline content from Netflix, you gotta install the Android APK. Then you can work it just like the Netflix on your phone and download movies onto there. So if you got long 10-hour flights, definitely do that and download a bunch of movies so you can sit there and watch it. It's not as good as the native Netflix app, but the Netflix app on the Quest 2 doesn't allow you to download videos. I guess they didn't want to enable that content. Not sure why, but this is basically an Android phone, so you can install most APKs and they'll work properly. Then you can put on your noise cancelling headphones, sit back, and relax with your big screen. I've left some useful links in the description. I'd like to thank all those developers who's made that for VR. Special thanks to Luke Ross, who made it possible to play GTA 5 on Quest 2. Some games are just better in VR. By giving it Wi-Fi 6, they've made this truly a wireless and all-in-one headset where you can play PC VR wirelessly. As backup, you can still use the Oculus Link with a wire, and whenever I do that, I just velcro it to the side speaker, and then I'll run my 5-meter USB extension plus my 5-meter cable, then I can have 10 meters out to the living room from my desktop in my office. The cable's kind of heavy, so if you have a spring-loaded tensioner, put that overhead and they'll take the weight off the headset. I'll put some of my links to these in the description, or you can Google Quest cable management on AliExpress for them. The best thing I've found is to pay 20 bucks for virtual desktop and use that on my Wi-Fi 866 megabits per second network. The latest update of Virtual Desktop actually gave us the performance overlay, so now you can see all the stats on your delay. They've also optimized and reduced the delay, so it's definitely worth the 20 bucks if you want to reduce your latency over ALVR, which was giving me about 60 or 70 milliseconds. If that's okay with you, ALVR works really well. It's compatible with all these video cards and works well with the 1070 because that's what they tested it with. You can upgrade to Wi-Fi 6 if you think your Wi-Fi 5 is not fast enough, but I found that with the optimizations of Virtual Desktop, the new release 1.18, it's pretty fast at 40 milliseconds, and I can play most games very quickly. So it's pretty cool that with this $20 program, I don't need to buy a $250 router or upgrade my video card to try and reduce the delay. It feels almost as good as the cable, and we can do some testing later to see if it actually is. So this all-in-one Quest 2 definitely is great bang for the buck. It's capable of standalone gaming. With the $20 virtual desktop, it can easily connect to your PC VR and play high-performance games from your high-powered desktop. There's a lot of free applications out there, free entertainment, VR chat, alcove, you can hang out with your family and friends. This thing has unlimited possibilities. VR is kind of a new industry, but it's definitely taking the world by storm. The Quest 2 definitely makes a great gift with unlimited potential for entertainment, education, and leisure. There's a lot of socializing that you can do in the Quest. It's got the microphone and you can chat with people in VR chat. You can collaborate together for work, share desktops, presentations, 3D models, DWFs. And I want to warn you that text is still kind of blurry, so it'll be difficult to do work in VR. Regardless, you can jump into movie theaters together, watch 3D movies, and the more we watch, the more they'll release. There's no real need to go to the movie theater and put on 3D glasses. I think in the Quest 2, the display is good enough that you can replace a movie theater's screen. If there's a new release for a movie, I would pay for a ticket in VR rather than go to the movie theater. That's how good it is. It's not as good as some IMAX screens, but it's sufficient enough that I'd actually pay to watch a movie in it. Obviously at a reduced price, not full box office price, but I think if they release new movies in VR, people would actually watch them. If they can do a 360 movie, that would be amazing. This thing gives you 6 degrees of freedom, so you can run around in a field if you wanted to. It's got unlimited room scale abilities, so in the future you can run around an entire field probably, and have a huge paintball match, or laser tag virtually. I guess it's just like Johnny English Strikes Again. It'll probably change the way we socialize and get together. We can all hang out on a space station virtually and just sit above the Earth. Something that we could never do unless we joined NASA and became an astronaut. With the quality of the displays increasing, it's going to be a huge paradigm shift in how we work and get together and enjoy entertainment. Once you can virtually have 10 8K screens around you, you won't need to buy monitors anymore. If they have virtual casinos, you won't even have to go to Vegas anymore. You can win all the blackjack hands you want in the comfort of your own home. You can attend sporting events virtually, even jump into the cockpit of a jet. Once they get 360 cameras into cars and at sporting events, you can virtually jump right into the action. So we got a ways to go. There's definitely potential here. You can get away with the 64 gig version, but I've had mine a month and I've already used over 70 gigs. So get the 256 if you don't want to keep deleting stuff. At the current quality and capabilities, I give it an overall rating of 3.8 stars. I'd say it's a good quality VR headset, but by no means the best of the best, but I definitely recommend it as an all-in-one VR headset. You don't need a supercomputer to run it, like the Valve Index. You're not going to get the best quality, but as you saw in this video, you do get great bang for your buck. And it does open up your world to limitless possibilities. I've only scratched the surface with regards to the software out there and games. There's definitely more coming, and I'm sure you're going to want to jump along for the journey. I hope this review of the Quest 2 was insightful, entertaining, and gave you a good understanding of what to expect if you decide to purchase the Quest 2. If you have any comments or questions, please leave a comment below. And again, I'd like to thank all my subscribers and patrons. All your support, recommendations, and comments definitely help out. Keep it all coming, and I'll keep on making entertaining content for you guys to watch. Thanks for watching, and I hope that helps.
The next day.
I received the Halo head strap today, and I got a chance to install it and try it out with contractors and AIM-XR. It feels pretty good, it's nice and stable, much better than the stock mount. The pads are nice and soft. The ratcheting system in the back is pretty good, so it can make your Quest 2 experience much more comfortable. It has the pad on the forehead, so it helps take the weight off your face. You don't need the counterweight, but you can add it if you like. It still helps. And for the 30 bucks, I definitely recommend upgrading to it.